Hi everyone, welcome to Electric Car Australia and Happy New Year. I hope everybody had a great Christmas and New Year, although this year it was a little bit different to probably normal. I hope everybody caught up with family as much as they could and had a safe one. And look, a very big thank you to all the subscribers of the channel recently and everyone who's sent through fantastic comments and suggestions. As most people would know, we're only a new channel, so really appreciate all the suggestions and tips to help us improve and also provide you guys the information that you'd like to know. So Electric Car Australia is an Australian-based YouTube channel specialising in EVs with an Australian flavour, and also our recently purchased MG ZS EVs. So a lot of the videos will be based around the Australian model of the ZS EV. Now, if you watched our previous video, you'll know that we had lots of problems making this video. As I said, a newbie, so making lots of rookie errors. One of them in the last video was the sound, so apologies for that if you did watch that. So this one we've fixed up, hopefully. What happened in the last video, I knocked the little windsock off the top of the mic and the mic went inside my t-shirt and it was atrocious. So hopefully we've got that right this time. So look, what this video is going to be about is just how easy it is to plan a road trip in an EV, and that includes your battery charging stops. So obviously in an EV you've got a shorter capacity or shorter distances you can travel than an internal combustion engine car. So you do actually need to plan your trips a little bit prior, but look, it's really easy to do and we're going to run through that for you today and just show you how easy that is. The way we do that is using apps. So our entire lives these days are driven around apps, and we've got three really helpful apps to show you. They're the three main ones we use. There is lots of others out there, and at some point in the future we'll do a separate video that covers off the pros and the cons of all those different apps. But today we're just going to go through the three that we used. The bonus you'll get today is that we're also going to show you some nice footage of the Lockyer Valley. So the last time I went out to the Lockyer Valley, it was very dry, you know, not a lot of rain. This time, nice and green, lush crops, etc. out there. So we'll be heading from Brisbane out the Darren Lockyer Way to Gatton. We'll be stopping to charge at the University of Queensland's Gatton rapid charger there. We'll go on through the township of Gatton. So Gatton's a small town of about 7,100 people on the Darling Downs. We'll head then out the Gatton-Clifton Road towards the Darling Downs Zoo at Pilton. And I'm going to drop the family, the wife and the kids, off at the zoo there at Pilton. So we've got a couple of shots of that to show you, and I'll be continuing on to Clifton to visit a customer out there. Again, on the Darling Downs of Queensland, that's an even smaller little village, just jotted down here. About 1,500 people live in Clifton, so very small village. I'll come back from Clifton, pick the kids and the wife up from the zoo. I'd be in big trouble if I left them behind there. Back to Gatton to the UQ charger and on back to Brisbane. So in a nutshell, we're doing a round trip from Brisbane out to Clifton and back to Brisbane, and we'll show you some scenery. We'll cover off some of the, briefly, some of the consumption of the car, and we'll also show you briefly some of the charging. So the purpose of the video today is actually to show you how to plan the trip and the apps to use, not so much the consumption and charging. We'll have separate videos at some point in the future on those. But look, I hope you find it interesting, so stay with us. It will be a little bit broken up, the video. As I said, I'll be doing some here at home a number of days after the actual road trip, because some of the footage I used, it was unusable. No matter how much editing I'd done, I just couldn't get it to look any good. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of chopping and changing between different stuff, but that's it. That's what we'll run through today, and now we'll give you a brief overview of each of the apps. Well, we're actually going to start with the app that I mentioned last first. So this is the PlugShare app. It's a North American app, or it originated in North America. However, it's available globally and quite useful globally. In North America, you can use it to buy things, etc. So as we can see there, sorry, I've gone into the wrong section. We go up here to the settings section. There's a store in there. There's payment history, profiles, messages, all that sort of stuff. However, primarily in Australia, this app is driven on a community basis. So you'll notice there at the top that you can share your home charger. So if you have a charger at home and you'd like to share that with the rest of the EV community, you can actually do that. So some people choose to do that, some don't. You don't have to. I should mention, by the way, also that these 3 apps are free. So you don't need to pay for any of them. They're just downloadable via your favourite app store. But primarily this app in Australia is used to find EV charging stations. And like I said, that includes people's home personal chargers that they're prepared to share. So in a super emergency, if there was no commercial charging stations around, you can actually find somebody's residential charger and use that. So it is a fantastic app. And you can also plan trips with it. However, I'll show you the Better Route Planner, which I think is a better app to do that. So let's quickly get into what I suggest you use it for. This one's sort of preset. I've just set it to close to where we live. So we're in Rochedale in Queensland. So I hope you can see that there. I know this charger here is at my Coles shopping centre. So if you want to search for a station, you just obviously type in the address there and it will search for it. So let's actually do that. And I hope everyone can see this quite well. I'm running 2 cameras here and a separate mic recording, so hopefully this is all working well. So there we go, Rochedale, South Queensland. We click on that and there we go. So it's got our charger there. So that's the suburb, the one in the red. This is our charger here. So I know that that's the one at my local Coles. So Rochedale Village is telling us it's a Type 2 charger. So that's suitable for our MG ZS EV. We click that and that opens up the location app. So quite a lot of information here. As I said, it's community based, so we could click edit, and if there was an error in any of this information or an error in the actual location where it's showing the charger, we could go in and correct that ourselves. You can click navigate and that'll go into Google Maps and show you the way there. If you've got your location services on, you can add a photo. So there's a couple of photos of our ZS EV that I've added in here. And you can also set alerts. So if the charger's busy, you can set an alert for when it becomes vacant and it'll send you alerts. So really helpful. Tells you a little bit about it there. This one is a 7 kilowatt charger and you need to bring your own lead. So obviously there's a note in there for that. So 16 amp single phase, that's 7 kilowatt. Parking's free, it's open 24/7. It's in a shopping centre, so there's some restrooms, dining, groceries, that sort of stuff. That's the Type 2 charger. So if you're still becoming familiar with what chargers look like, that's the plug on a Type 2, which is the same as the Model 3 Teslas these days. Most cars globally are going to the Type 2. Nissan Leafs and the Mitsubishi Outlander hybrids have the other one, which the name just escapes me now, the Japanese one. I'll mention that a little bit later when we come to that, charging at UQ. So these are the comments. So these are the recent check-ins. So there I am. So I've been there with the ZS EV, so people can add their comments. There's photographs, etc. So there's our MG down there charging. So look, a fantastic app. And what you do is you check in. So this one you don't pay, you don't book, anything like that. You basically It's a community service to let people know that you're using it. So if I was down at Coles, I would open the app up, I would click that, and we can say you're waiting in line, you've successfully charged, could not charge, if there's a problem, etc. But let's say I was charging now. So I would click charging now. I can put a comment in. I can say how long I'll be there for and the max kilowatts that I'm getting. So either the car sometimes or the charger will tell you. If you don't want to fill in any of that detail, you don't need to. And you just hit submit. I won't do it now because it will tell everyone else that I'm charging down there. So really a community service one. It identifies where the chargers are and lets you know whether they're being used or not. So it's always good courtesy, no matter which type of charger you're using. If you also open the PlugShare app, select the charger and just say that it's in use, that helps the EV community in general. So look, that's it. Basically, the PlugShare one is used as a community service to other EV drivers to just let them know that you are at a charging station, you're using it, or also to identify if there's any problems or issues if it's out of service. So the second app we're going to talk about today is Chargefox. Now, just to have a quick read off their homepage, Chargefox, welcome to Australia's largest EV charging network, powered by 100% renewable energy and Australian owned and operated. So they've got around 1,400 plugs on the Chargefox network, and I think that might include some in New Zealand, but they are Australian owned, Australian based. And the reason for having this app is the majority, as they say, of charge stations in Australia are managed via Chargefox. Now, whether they own the chargers or whether they just administer the use of the chargers, because they do both. So for instance, the one down at Coles that I just showed you, you need the Chargefox app to use that charger, even though it's free of charge. So we'll run through that now. So Chargefox is a commercial business. However, they do manage some chargers that are free of charge, and they also manage some commercial chargers. So it's just great that the one at Coles here at Rochdale is managed by Chargefox, as is the charger out at the UQ Gatton campus that we're going to show you as part of this video as well. So Chargefox is a great app to have. So again, it's map-based, so you can search for what you're looking for. This is the one here we already know, so I'll just click on that one. So there we go, it tells us it's Coles at Rochdale. It charges at 7.2 kilowatts. It's a type 2 charger, it's free, and it tells us there's 2 chargers there. So if we click details, it tells us the station number. The station down there at Coles has a port A and a port B. So for instance, if I was parked down at the charger, I would get my lead out of the car. I would plug it into the front of the MG. I'd lift the port flap of whichever one I wanted. So let's say I wanted port A. I would hit unlock. And as you can see, it's preparing to unlock the charge port. And it may or may not do it because we're not actually there. It does detect your location. So if it does work, what it would do, it would say port is unlocked and it's ready to go. You'll plug your lead in and there will be a red button for emergency stop, obviously, and a green button. The green button will start flashing. You press the green button and away you go. You'll be charging. So it doesn't look like it's going to connect. What it would do, it would say connected, and it would show anybody else that was looking at the app that one of the 2 chargers is in use. And as I mentioned at this point, once I'd kicked that charging off using the Chargefox app, just out of courtesy, I would go into PlugShare, I'd select the Coles charger, and I would say that I'm going to be charging for 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it is, just as a courtesy to other people. If they were searching for a charger using PlugShare, they would know that I was there. We'll show you a little bit later on in the video. You'll see some of the shots of using the Chargefox app at the University of Queensland 50 kilowatt rapid charger where you do actually pay. So when you download the app and you register on the app, you need to put your credit card details in. So if you use a charger that requires payment, it will automatically bill you for that. The one at UQ is really cheap. It's 20 cents a kilowatt, which ironically is the same price that we pay for electricity here at our residential premises. So that's it. That's the Chargefox app. Now, the final app I wanted to show you today, a better route planner. A lot of people that even have Teslas, familiar with Teslas have their own inbuilt mapping systems where they can track the Tesla charges, superchargers, etc. And some people still use a better route planner as well. So that just goes to show how good it is. As a commercial business, you can pay for a premium service. I think it's based somewhere in Europe. Premium service will cost you about €5 a month or $8 or 50 euros or about $79. Look, I'd argue you don't need that premium service. The free service is more than adequate. They built the app. There's been 26.5 million journeys planned on this app. So that just goes to show how good it is. So that is Australia. This is Brisbane. So just to zoom up, it does have quite good graphics. All these apps have really good graphics. And we'll put a couple of other shots through the video that'll just show you how many apps, how many chargers, are on these apps. So this one has lots of features. I won't run through them all. We'd need a separate video on its own. So what I'd suggest, if you're interested, download the app and have a play around with it yourself. You don't need to register, so you can download, play around with it without registering. I have registered, obviously. Once you register, it allows you to save journeys. You can export journeys to Excel to track your travel. So first thing we do is go into settings. So if you first download the app, go into settings and you set the model of your vehicle. So we've got MGZS EV. Now there's some things in here that you would set and forget. So the car one, obviously you'd set it and you wouldn't need to change that again unless you changed your vehicle. Things like your state of charge and your reference consumption, you may or may not change that for each trip depending on your starting point. So for my trip out to Clifton and back, I started with 95%, or it was actually 98% state of charge. So state of charge stands for the state of charge of the battery. So we had 98%, so we were basically, battery was full. I set it at 95 just for a couple of percent of contingency, I guess. The reference consumption is auto-populated based on the vehicle you put in. Now I've had a look at that and I'm pretty comfortable with just leaving that as it is. Consumption is impacted by a lot of things: headwinds, weight in the vehicle, the temperature and the humidity, lots and lots of different things. So the average in our ZSEV for the small amount of trips we've done is around 17. And the MG, as we'll show some screenshots, kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. Now, if you convert that, because as you'll see there, this is watt hours per kilometre at 110 kilometres an hour. So with EVs, the faster you go, the higher the consumption, and the slower you go, the better the consumption or the efficiency. So it's the total opposite to an internal combustion engine. Internal combustion engines are more economical and efficient on the highway and motorway driving, and less efficient around town because you're stopping and starting. EVs are the opposite. EVs with regen braking, when you're stopping and starting around town, as you're stopping and slowing down at lights and all that sort of stuff, you're actually pumping energy back into the battery via your regen braking. So they're actually more efficient around town. So when you're out the highway or on a motorway, you're actually consuming more energy per kilometre than you would around town. So by putting it at 110, that's in Australia worst case scenario. I'm not aware of any motorways in Australia where you can legally drive more than 110. So that being said, at 110, you're being conservative because that is the worst efficiency, if you want to put it that way, that you could get, because the harder and faster you drive the EV, the more it'll consume. So I'm probably waffling a little bit here, but in a nutshell, 17.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres on the MG's dash would equate to 178 watt-hour per kilometre. I'm comfortable to leave that there. You can play around with that if you want. So for instance, if your consumption was higher, you might pump it up to 190, something like that. But I'm comfortable with that. Battery and charges. So you can select whether you want to just see fast charges, charge availability, etc. I've left all that, speed, road conditions. So again, I'll let you guys have a play around with that. But in that settings section, you basically jump in there first up and you set some of the parameters you want. Now this is where the fun stuff starts. So you type in your starting point. So we'll clear that. I already had the Clifton trip in. So we'll clear that. It's as simple as putting the starting point. So we've got Super IGA, so that's the big IGA supermarket near us. We'll put that as a starting point. Now my destination is actually going to be IGA again because I want to do a round trip. But what we're going to add is a waypoint. So the waypoint is the stop-offs along the way. So my waypoint is going to be Clifton in Queensland. So that little village that has about 1,400 people, we're going to pop that in. And then our destination is going to be IGA Roachdale again. So we leave home, we go out to Clifton. We've got a little drop off on the way, which is basically turn left off the road, turn back on, and back home again. Then we click this button here, and it does its magic. And this is the really cool part that saves a lot of time and effort. So there you go. That shows you the map, where we're going to be off to, and I will, at the risk of this not working, try and bring that in. So we're Brisbane, out towards Ipswich, Laidley, Gatton. We're up to Clifton. There's Toowoomba, up in the Toowoomba range. And we'll be back. So what this cool little app does, it tells us that round trip is going to be 4 hours and 38 minutes. You'll see there. That is the total time, including charging stops. So the actual trip is 4 hours and 15 minutes, I think that is, of driving. It's 330 kilometres, and it's telling me I'm going to need 23 minutes of charging at 2 charging stops. So that's a summary. And you can screenshot these. As I mentioned, if you register, you can save these. You can click share, you can share a link, open in Google Maps, export to Excel, etc. So there's lots of fun stuff you can do. Now what we do is we swipe that up, and that gives us the breakdown. So we're leaving IGA. Our first charging stop is at University of Queensland Gatton campus at the veterinary hospital there. So just looking down at there, we arrive at 11:56 a.m. So the times are based on your location services, which I actually have turned off at the moment. So this is all live if you've got your locations turned on. And we need to charge for 6 minutes. So you'll notice the 6 minutes there. So no time at all. This is a rapid charger. So it's putting in 50 kilowatts. The MG-ZS EV can handle 50 kilowatts. So yeah, you could stay there for 6 minutes. So you'll arrive with 57% capacity, leave with 69. So that's telling me I only need to charge for 6 minutes to go from Gatton to Clifton and back to Gatton to charge again. Now, common sense tells you when you've got a couple of kids in the car, you want to stretch your legs, go to the toilet, and the university is a great spot there. If you're sort of in normal business hours, it's a great facility. You can have a quick chat to the staff. There's nice spots to walk around, lots of animals to see, and there's some toilet facilities there. So we actually stayed for about 20 minutes, so well over the 6 minutes we needed. So we jump back in, off we go to Clifton. So it's an hour and 2 minutes from Gatton to Clifton, 75 kilometres, because that's allowing for the regional roads. So obviously you're not driving at 100 kilometres an hour on these roads. They're regional roads, as you'll see on some of our footage later on. So we arrive in Clifton with 37%. Now we're not charging at Clifton. So I'm visiting my customer. I'm turning around, I'm coming back to University of Queensland at Gatton, so that's an hour and 7 minutes, 76 kilometres, and I'll arrive with 13%. So we've left with 69, we've arrived at Clifton with 37, We've turned around and come back to Gatton and we've arrived with 13. So we need to charge for 17 minutes at Gatton. So once we've charged for 17 minutes or 46% of our capacity, we can leave Gatton and head back home, and we'll arrive home with 10%. Now the apps are obviously assuming that you're going to be able to do the majority of your charge or a full charge at your destination. So the way the app works, it's planning for you to have a reasonably low charge when you arrive home. Otherwise, it could have said that you'd stay at Gatton for 45 minutes maybe, and you'd arrive home at maybe 80%, say. So look, that is it in a nutshell. This is the Whiz Bang app. This is the main one. You could plan a road trip around Australia with this. You could put in, I'm leaving Brisbane and I'm going to Melbourne. You put in your stops. You can select if you want to stop with toilets or you want to stop at takeaways. You can put all that sort of stuff in and the app will actually work all that out for you. So this really allays people's fears of range anxiety. So even though the ZSEV only has a range of around 260 kilometres as an average, with apps like this, you could travel around Australia because it's planning where you need to stop, distances between, etc. And it's calculating all of that cumulative time. So you know the total time of your trip, unless something obviously major goes wrong, you know the total time of your trip, including all your charging stops. And look, to be fair to EVs, people need to stop to go to the toilet, they need to stop to eat, etc., etc. So it's a bit rich when you hear some people comment, oh yeah, but you've got to stop for 40 minutes here and you've got to stop for 40 minutes there. Well, we all need to eat, stretch our legs. So you're just charging while you're doing that. So look, that's the 3 apps we really recommend. At the end of the video, I'll put links to those in the description section, and really look forward to people's comments, whether they've used other apps, whether they've used these apps and found them good, bad, any suggestions, etc. So that's the apps. Scenery out around the Darling Downs, visuals of the consumption of the car, so from the dash of the MG, and also some of the charging shots. So hope you guys enjoy this video, and stay with us. We've got many more to come.